Okay, welcome back to the tail feather section of the Slow Ride by Tower Hobbies. This is a part that on my last video I had said I couldn't find the dowels that came. They're little bitty tiny wooden dowels. Went through my shop, I could not find anything that size in a wooden dowel, but I did go out to the shop and I found that 440 screws are the exact size. So I just clipped the heads off. And I will glue the 440 screws right in. They go right through there. I made the mistake. They're only supposed to be on the bottom side, but I did make the mistake and put it all the way through, so I will have to cover that up. They do run perfectly down into those holes, and then everything goes together with 30-minute epoxy. What I've done is I put my wing on my fuselage. I put my stabilizer on there. I got it squared up where I pretty much like it. As you can see, I went ahead and scored through just the monocoat part where I'm ready to put on some epoxy. I went ahead and test fit all of my hinges, and I have test fit my elevator piece in between. Make sure it all works, but none of it is glued together yet. I wanted to just test fit everything before I try to install, just to be on the safe side that I'm ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these two pieces here into my stabilizer, glue them into the tail on the wing, to the tail on the fuselage, sorry. And then while I still have my 30-minute epoxy together, I'm going to go ahead and glue these two pieces in. And then once everything is set, I will then put this elevator half and this elevator half into the stabilizer. That'll be the next section of the video. Just wanted to real quick show, I went ahead and left my hinges in place. Everything is epoxied in. I've got all of that squared the way that I wanted it to be, measured equidistance to the wingtips from here to here. I've got it all squared up, pushed down how I want. And now I'm gonna just let it dry. Meanwhile, I am gonna go ahead and get ready to do the vertical fin and the rudder. Okay, so now I'm back. I've glued on the stabilizer. I've now glued the elevators on, glued this little cross piece in. I did take a Q-tip, sorry about that. I took a Q-tip with a little bit of Vaseline and I rubbed it all over on the fuselage side to make sure that none of the epoxy that was here got up into the onto the stabilizer side. So I'm going to let that dry. If you notice, I taped them flat on either end, and I'm just going to let it set now for probably 15 minutes before I pull that tape off and move on to doing the vertical fin and rudder, all of those parts. Okay, so now we're going to move forward with installing the vertical fin. You can see I've already trial fit my tail wheel bracket to it. The tail wheel bracket's going to slide right back down into there. This is straightforward. Just some 30-minute epoxy in the channel, and down here in the channel I did again put a little bit of the Vaseline down there on those two hinges. I'm going to try not to get any glue on those side of the hinges, just going to get the glue on all of this part, but just to be on the safe side, I put a little bit there. Eventually we will put a little bit of glue here as we glue on the rudder. Okay, so now as you can see, the vertical fin is installed. I have glued the tail wheel bracket in, but it is free to move. I'm going to go ahead and line up my hinges, and while I still have a little bit of glue left, I'm going to go ahead and glue this part onto my rudder. So now the tail surfaces are all completely glued on. I'm just going to let the epoxy final set, but that's it for that part of the construction. Now it's going to be down to mounting the motor, getting the ESC where I want it, getting all of my servos in there, setting it up the way that I want it set up, doing the electronics on it, doing the hatch as well, But it's a pretty nice airplane so far. If I hadn't been shooting the video, I probably could have had this done in an hour and a half to this point. But with shooting the video and having to look for a couple of extra parts that weren't there, probably running me right about 2 hours to this point. Looks like it'll probably take about another hour to get the final 2 servos in, push rods made for those final 2 servos, and the motor, receiver, speed control, get all that set up. So the last video that I will shoot is after I've hooked everything up, just kind of going through my final setup, and then I will eventually do a first flight video as well. Thank you. Bye for now. Oh, yep. Just for old time's sake, there's Stormy and Lucy.